So newsflash, when you scale up your business and your headcount starts to grow, compliance isn't really based on revenue, right? Nobody cares how much money the business or nonprofit is bringing in. And we see major changes happen when you go from 1 or 2 employees to employee number 4. And then we see another big set of changes happen when you graduate to 15 or more employees. So today I'm sitting down, or I've brought back Sharon Delay to talk to us about some of these hidden thresholds that catch business owners completely off guard. So if we haven't met before, my name is Maritza Shea Nelson, and I am a small business and nonprofit attorney. I like to help the entrepreneurs, founders, dreamers, innovators, basically the passion people, do what it is that they're really passionate about without worrying that all this legal stuff like HR compliance might come back to bite them. I've got today back on the channel with me, Sharon Delay from Go HR. Sharon, tell us a little bit about your business and what you do.
Hi, Maritza, and thank you for having me back. So my business is Go HR, and we provide what most people would maybe refer to as fractional services in the HR field to small businesses primarily. That was where I started. That's my passion as well, is to help small businesses and family-owned businesses survive and thrive. So that's what we do. It might be project work. It might be, we are their outsourced HR. So we are seamlessly integrated into the company and the team. And most of our clients originate in Ohio, but they have employees throughout the country. So we kind of dabble in a lot of different states.
Well, Sharon, as I mentioned at the beginning, we see kind of small businesses start to graduate. They go from solopreneur, maybe, we talked last month, 1 or 2 friends and family that are working for them to, okay, now I've got 4, 5, 6 employees. And that's where we see, at least at the state level, we've got our state employment laws kick in. So all those non-discrimination things start to apply, even if technically some of the federal stuff doesn't yet. What's sort of the big culture shock or business kind of operational shock you see when you're talking to founders about what they need to do as they hit that threshold and start to transition?
It's an interesting thing. I think for some things, like you'd mentioned the discrimination piece, right? There's a different number threshold in Ohio and Columbus than there is federally. I think most business owners want to do the right thing. So even with 1 employee, they probably fall in to not discriminating, not harassing, and making sure they are aware of everything they do that won't lead them down those paths. So from, I think, a kindness perspective and a do the right thing perspective, they do it regardless of what any agency or government says has to be the head count.
I think what I love about working with founder-led businesses is, they want to do the right thing, right? So many of them came from hating corporate America. And so I don't see a lot of discrimination type of cases. Now, what I will sometimes get are disability and accommodation questions, especially when the founder is maybe frustrated with somebody. They've hired that part-time admin who's never available. When they are available, the kids are screaming in the background. Now the admin is maybe not officially requesting, but kind of dropping hints that they might need some additional support. How do you help them deal with some of those situations?
So I agree with you. I think intentional discrimination and harassment, I think, are really not issues for the most part. I do think the disability piece does become more of an issue. I think there's a lot of fear around that because they think that they might have to build a ramp or a space rocket or whatever to accommodate somebody. And I'm not trying to minimize the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think there is so much fear around that. Well, I'm not supposed to know people's medical history. I'm not supposed to know this. But you do have a right as an employer to know certain things, so you can figure out the right things to do for your business and to protect your business, as well as to give that person a chance to work. I do think employers get very afraid when somebody brings up the whole, I might need some help doing my job, because I think they go to the worst case scenario versus there are things between point A and point Z that you can look at.
Or what I'll see a lot of is, well, the employee is asking for X, and X is going to be so expensive, and they don't understand that that's supposed to be a dialogue, right? It's not like I have to give in to your demands. So we have to have a conversation and figure out what's going to actually be reasonable, right? Hence reasonable accommodation.
Right. I mean, it's called an interactive discussion.
Right.
And the interactive is the key part. Not one person drives it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So that's kind of the 4-employee mark. And I think it's important to note that at least here in Ohio, while the rule is 4 employees, legally, the judge will often count you as the owner that's working in that business as one of the employees, even if you're not a W-2. So I always use 4 very loosely. It's how many people are showing up to work, regardless of what you call them. But then we see that next shift at 15 and then 20. So what are some of the shifts that you see that businesses need to make then?
The way the federal government describes small business is an interesting thing. So for most of us who are entrepreneurial, when we start getting into the double digits, we're starting to feel a little big.
Right.
Right? And I think employers always have to be looking out on the horizon of what they're going to have to be obligated to by employee count, by benefits counts, by the law. And when you start getting up into things, and again, let me backtrack a little bit. We're talking about state laws, employment laws. We've got federal employment laws, but then you have municipality. And then you have how headcounts are defined by certain, like the ACA, FMLA. There are so many layers there.
Right.
I think employers always have to have headcount and understanding how that headcount's defined on their radar for when they have to bring in health insurance, a group plan, or when they have to make sure COBRA is being executed when somebody leaves. And then they have to understand the difference between mini COBRA, federal COBRA. So it's not an easy answer.
Yeah. So I guess a couple follow-up questions, just some of the things I get often is, so when do I really need an employee handbook? I mean, do I really need one at 2 people or 4 people, or can I wait till I've got 10 people and I'm in those double digits? What do you tell people?
You should have your policies defined before you hire your first person. It just takes one person to make you realize you should have had policies in place.
Yep.
Whether you have 20 people or 1 person. A lot of employers feel like that's a bit much. So what I tell employers, especially ones that are growing, is there are really 4 foundational documents you should have to help manage employees' expectations. A handbook, a really good offer letter, a really good job description, and an application. All of those have different things built in that kind of provide an umbrella of protection for most employers and address most of the things that will come up that most of us can reasonably think of. I typically see the handbook as being number 4 on that list for most. Job descriptions, they've taken from a friend who had a similar business that they think because it has the right title on it, it's what the person's doing. They don't get it signed off on. And offer letters don't reserve rights for employers. So all of those things, to me, those 4 things are the foundational documents for across the board, right? Your industry may have some additional things. I think you need to have those things in place from your first hire, because then it's not like you're trying to go back and suddenly make up a rule to fit your narrative versus the employee's narrative. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. I see it all the time where people don't want to put those rules in place because they think, well, we're a small business. We can just figure it out. This is a collaborative environment. Right. Collaborative is now the catch-all for everything. And so they don't put the rules in place until somebody does something that they don't like. And then that feels almost punitive to the employee.
Or targeted.
Right. Or targeted. Or they don't put a rule in place until the employee is asking them about it. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, I really don't know how to manage people. I haven't even considered, what is our time off policy? I don't know.
Right.
What do we do if you happen to, need a couple of weeks off for a car accident? I don't know.
Right. And for that one employee that you have, you might give them the 8 weeks off that they need. But then let's say you hire a second person and something happens, and this one employee over here that had the 8 weeks off are like, oh, they'll give you 8 weeks off. And you're like, oh, I can't do that again. And this
You don't
person,
realize you set a precedent.
right? And this person that came in, and this is the example I always use, and please correct me if this is a bad thing. The person that came in behind the 8-weeker, is a Jewish female, black, pregnant woman with a disability, right? We've hit all these protected classes. And now you have set a different policy potentially.
Right.
And you didn't do it because of necessarily any of those protected classes, but it looks that way.
Yeah. Or at least that will be used against you if this person becomes disgruntled.
You did it because now you realized you overdid it on that first one, and you can't repeat that on the second one. But it doesn't matter. Intent very rarely becomes part of your defense.
At all. At all.
So,
yeah,
at all then. But so that's what I try to walk people through, which is why I believe you should have those documents in place from day one of hiring.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said it, because anytime I say it, it's, well, the lawyer's just trying to charge me a hefty fee for an employee handbook. And I'm like, they're not easy to put together anymore. I mean, the laws are all over the place. They're changing all the time. The things that employees do are changing all the time. So as you said last month, somebody does something kind of dumb, and then we have to put a new policy in place, right? So if you come in with the 20-page handbook, I don't even have to read it. It's not good enough.
Right.
It's not.
In Ohio, that's a great point. In Ohio, if somebody brings us a 20-page handbook, we know it's about 50%, right? Because they should be around 48 to 50 pages, depending on whether you have an FMLA policy in there, which is like 12,000 pages.
Right.
But I mean, we kind of can guess if it doesn't have enough pages in it, you probably don't have all the right policies you need in it.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's constantly evolving, constantly changing. So it's very hard to keep up. And we talked about this last month. Don't take somebody else's handbook and adopt it as your own and just change the company name.
Yeah.
Because what if they have an FMLA policy in there you don't have to follow?
Right.
But you don't know that because you didn't talk to the right people.
Yeah. Yeah. Help people understand, what is the difference between an HR consultant and an employment attorney?
I think a good HR consultant knows when it's time to bring in an employment attorney.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a primary thing. I can go through the basic conversation of when somebody calls me and they're having an employee problem. Did you document it? Have you talked about it before? What's your policy? Let's look at your handbook. Okay, this is vague language. This is where you might fall into a trap. These are all the things you need to consider. Here's what I would advise on what you take next as a next step. I rarely ever advise somebody when they call me to immediately terminate or immediately discipline. I think that's bad.
Yeah.
But depending on what they call me with, I may say, you need an attorney because I'm not going to be the one standing in court beside you when this inevitably goes sideways. And I can tell you from my experience, this is going to go sideways. So I think a good HR consultant can do a lot of things to not escalate it up to that higher hourly rate or whatever that they're afraid of paying. But I think that same HR person knows when it's time to bring in the attorney.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, so much of what you pay somebody like you or I for is that experience and that ability to kind of walk a problem back from the edge.
Right. I work with a ton of attorneys, right? They refer clients to me because they're like, this is HR level work. Mm-hmm. They can do this. They do this on a daily basis. This is when you want to bring me in.
Yeah.
And I think those attorneys trust me because I know when to lob it back over to them.
Right. Right.
Or when to have an attorney look at it and sign off on it because of the language we're using or what I think is a sticky wicket they're getting ready to walk into.
Yeah. Well, any parting words of wisdom, anything else that you want small business owners to know as they're scaling up?
I think if you go through any business training and any kind of incubator, educational program, they will tell you, you have to have partners, accountants, attorneys. I'm going to throw in HR people, right? And they're there for a reason because they've spent their life doing things that you haven't done. And they're there to help keep you compliant. They care about you, right? They want to keep you as a long-term client. They don't want to gouge you on pricing now and then you have to go and find somebody else or whatever. They want to keep you as a long-term client. And they want to help you and they want to see you successful because as you grow, they grow. So I think businesses, if I could give any advice, is surround yourself with partners who care about your business, not about your checkbook, but about your business. And I do believe they will help you grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do the right thing.
Absolutely. I want to be your attorney for the life of your business or nonprofit, not just for whatever this billable project happens to be.
I want to be your HR consultant until you're so big you have to hire somebody, and then I want to do your project work. Or when you hire that person, I want to come back in and help you, right?
Yeah.
But I don't want those relationships to terminate any more than you do.
Yeah.
I do genuinely care. We both love small businesses for a reason.
Yeah.
We want to see them grow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Sharon, where can people find you at if they've got some of these HR questions?
So they can look us up online at www.go-hr.biz, B-I-Z. That's our website. We have a Facebook page. We are on LinkedIn. Or they can reach out and email me at sharon.delay@go-hr.biz.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And if Sharon kicks you over to me with legal questions, or you have legal questions you'd like to run by me before you go and talk to Sharon, you can always schedule a consultation on the website at www.msnlawoffice.com/scheduling. Until next time, it's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.